Hello, my name is Patricia Victome, and I'm here to present my Capstone project, examining teacher identity and practice in modern classrooms. So the surge of incorporating principles surrounding topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion education is a direct reflection of the recent changes we've witnessed as a society. As educators, we must often reflect on whether or not our students are feeling safe, respected, and motivated in our schools and in our classrooms. Are we allowing them opportunities to engage? Are we allowing them academic and social learning experiences that reflect learner-oriented principles? In the wake of COVID-19, New York City schools and schools across the country were closed and had to provide remote learning plans for transitioning into more hybrid models for the future. And despite those closures, school-based mental health center clinicians were able to develop a solution for reinstating therapeutic relationships. These clinicians were able to prioritize the relationships of patients who were accessible through technology and were connected to community resources in order to mitigate the multifaceted trauma that was affecting our New York City youth. So trauma that most of our New York City youth is very familiar with, unfortunately, are topics such as domestic violence, homelessness, poor diet and sleep hygiene, poor online school attendance and engagement. The pandemic's response ultimately failed to adequately address these experiences, as well as the experience of loss and separation within our youth population. So overall, I believe that educational institutions should have learner-oriented opportunities for teachers and learners to evolve from a fixed mindset into more of a growth mindset. So in my research, I found that first-year teachers often struggle with classroom management issues and building relationships with students. Before they gain exposure to additional professional development, teachers should definitely practice exploring different ways of revisiting and reflecting their own educational practices and their own experiences and bias to improve and inform their instruction. So educators should be more familiarized with embedding problem and project-based learning interventions. They should be able to implement trauma-informed care, or at least schools should be working to provide more trauma-informed care and diverse, equitable, learner-oriented principles into the curriculum. So my goal is to develop a hybrid instructional curriculum that focused on these principles. Learner-oriented principles empower educators to evolve from fixed to growth mindsets when they're embedding PBL into their curriculum. Cultural immersion and So the 5E's approach allows for each lesson to include activities and tasks that provide multiple opportunities for learners to explore bias and diversity through literature. Learners are going to engage in meaningful group discussions, both virtually and, just virtually on our Google Meets, and explain their thinking through reflection and constructive responses. They're going to extend their knowledge to others and evaluate social justice within their school communities. The 5E's approach includes explore, engage, evaluate, extend, and explain their thinking. And all of their discussions will be grounded in anti-bias education that they will identify through literature. So the essential question for the unit is, what do we gain when we learn about the lived experiences of other people? The unit will include virtual book club talks, discussions, and written responses, and then finally a culminating research project. So we'll be using Google Meet and Google Classroom to provide feedback, provide access to the documents and materials that students will need in order to participate in the book club talks and for their assessments. We'll be meeting virtually to discuss what we're thinking about and have our daily classes. I've also incorporated the state standards since I'm teaching 6th grade. I've grounded it in literacy, citing textual evidence, analyzing details, and determining author's point of view. So the learning objectives of this unit: participants are going to use technology to research and determine the significance of honoring our differences in identity, culture, and history. They're going to use online platforms to analyze their knowledge and distinguish how they relate to each other. They will engage in virtual discussions to identify examples of ways to celebrate similarities while also honoring the significance of our differences. And all of this will be done by reading diverse literature and citing evidence from a text to support analysis of inferences drawn from the text while thinking critically. The guiding questions provided for this unit, we're going to often reflect and think, what makes us who we are? How do different parts of our identities combine to make us who we are? What ideas have I subscribed to without realizing that they don't align with what I know? How have my personal experiences impacted what I know? And how can I stay true to myself? Vygotsky believed in the zone of proximal development, also known as ZPD, the idea that when someone is in the comfort zone of what they can do, also someone on the outside of the zone of proximal development is included within the group to help the student do something else with help, whether that's another student or a teacher. And the anxiety zone would be what I can't do, but someone else can. So all of this can be seen when we're performing team effort and collaborative teaching, coaching, discussing future goals. I've also provided a rubric for participants to be able to see clearly what is expected of them and what will be assessed throughout the unit. I provided an outline in the rubric to show students what the project requirements are. You're going to have to fully summarize the issue you're teaching about, share multiple viewpoints about the issue, share your personal viewpoint about the issue, and share suggestions about a possible way we can begin solving the issue. And all of this will be done in the culminating project. I provided some example topics of social issues that they could potentially discuss. There's also an outline of additional questions that students will be provided with to help them stay focused on the topic and complete each task. Here's another example of the rubric that I provided. They'll be based on completion of tasks, creativity, and professionalism. Thank you for watching.